In my restless dreams, I see that town. I see it a lot. I think about it a lot. It's always around this time of year, as October is nearing its end and November starts coming in. When it starts to get overcast outside, it starts to get grayer. Like one step is all it takes for it to start raining. When it gets colder, and all the insects start to die or disappear, or whatever the hell happens to them. You know, I think about this town a lot. That's why I make a point to come here at least once a year around this time. It's cold. It's murky. The fog embraces everything around this town like a warm, hollow blanket. The sounds of the creatures roaming its streets and crawling across the walls inside of its buildings. The radio makes this awful noise when they're near. And yet that noise, as awful as it is comforting to me in a way. I don't really know if it'll make sense to anyone why I feel the way I do. But this town is kind of home to me. It's a comfort for me. I come here to feel okay. It reminds me of the first time I came to this town. I was 13, probably. Maybe 12, I don't remember. It's been too long. And I came here to get away from things I wasn't ready to confront. Things I didn't know I needed to confront. Because I came here. When I came here that first time, I remember seeing all these people, older than me, from lives I couldn't even imagine being through. And they weren't ready to confront who they were either. And something about that was comforting. Which is strange, I imagine, here, considering just what kind of people I'm talking about. But when you're a kid, you sort of just assume adults know everything about themselves. That at a certain point, you'll just figure it all out. And these questions, these thoughts, they stop happening. But that's not what happens. Actually, now that it's been long enough, and I'm old enough to be that, I've kind of figured out that adults are the people who don't know what's going on the most. Typically, we're afraid. Afraid of time. Afraid of things we don't know. Afraid of small things, and afraid of what we might be, who we are, and a lot of people just hide that. They hide the parts of them that are difficult, or that they know will make life difficult. I don't hide who I am, because I learned a while ago that it wasn't worth it. Life doesn't last forever. None of us know what happens when that chapter ends, and I'd rather be alive accepting who I am. So if I've made that strive, if I understand that, then why do I come back here? Why can't I just leave this town in the past? I don't know. I think maybe it's just that it's reliable. It's something I go to all the time. It's routine. It's a comfort. It's something that's always there. Like a favorite series or a newspaper comic that's been running longer than you have. It doesn't go away. And I come back here and it's like visiting an old town you've outgrown, but always welcomes you back. You see the same sights and they haven't changed. You have, and thus they seem like they've changed, but they haven't. The forest trail that leads down to the cemetery that then leads to this town, it's the same. It's the same as it always was. The payphones that you never used, but you always noticed because, well, it's kind of weird to see a payphone now. It's peculiar, unique, stands out to you. You still remember that tunnel where you saw that creature and you didn't quite understand what it was. You remember that hotel building. You remember that lake. That fucking lake. Or is it a river? No, rivers are thinner. It's a lake. You remember that building where he learned the truth of what he was. You remember that creature that looked to be doing something to those mannequins. Something you were too young to even fathom. You think about what it all meant, and when you were younger, you always thought about it, and it made you feel smart to have such profound thoughts about a piece of art. You kept using your intelligence, your ability to analyze fiction as a way to just hide the fact that you were scared and insecure and you weren't even sure what you were. You wanted the world to know that you had something important to say, something valuable to contribute to any conversation. And you were so desperate for validation. Because you had convinced yourself that if no one else validated you, then what reason did you have to validate yourself? I come back to this town because it reminds me of where I've been. It reminds me of who I've been, and it allows me to reflect on who I've become, who I am, and it allows me to make decisions on who I'm going to be. There are things about me that aren't going to change. There are things about me that are set in stone, but those are good things. Things that hurt no one. The flaws, the insecurities, the bad things, the things that you can fix. This town exists to show you that everything that makes you needs to be acknowledged. At least that's what it does for me. It might do something different for you or for someone else. And recently, I've noticed a lot of people coming to this town. More than usual. Conveniently around the time I always visit. But they look younger. And they're appreciating it in a different way than I always have. And that... I don't know how that makes me feel. At first, it upset me. The idea of them defiling something that meant something to me. A town that was mine that I could just hold on to and come to anytime. And sure, I wasn't the only person who came here. I always saw others, and they always talked about the same things, never what I felt like thinking about. But that's because people are different. They may say the same things, but they're not feeling the same things. They're not thinking the same things. And these new people coming in and exploring it in a completely new way, they're not hurting anyone. They're breathing more life into this town that I care about, that I love, and I think I'm okay with that. Maybe one day I'll explore it the way they're exploring it. Try to see it from that new perspective. But even when I do decide to do that, when I finally bite that bullet, I don't think I'm going to be able to look at it the same. I can't remove myself from the feelings that I have attached to this town. What they remind me of a depressed teenager, desperately trying and failing to come up with something, to write something, throwing away countless ideas, not knowing that the people around you, while some of them will grow closer as the years go on, others will reveal themselves to be not your friends. They reveal to be people that want to hurt you, who pretended to care for their own self-gain. You're going to get hurt. With hindsight, you know that, and a part of you wants to scream out to the part of you in that past, but you know you can't change it. And the town reminds you that you can't change it. But you're past that. You're not there anymore. And now, you're better. You're better. I haven't even stepped into the town yet. I'm resting at the edge of the guardrail, looking out at the lake, right next to that forest trail I mentioned. There's a couple cars parked out here. Those new people I talked about who are exploring this place for the first time and seeing it with fresh eyes. But one car's always here. It's light blue. I don't know the model. And I've always had a sneaking suspicion that there's something in that car. But it's not mine, so I can't check. I promise that when the time comes, I'll take you there too. I'll show you this town that meant a lot to me, that matters a lot to me still. And hopefully, even if you don't see it in the same way that I do, you'll still see something. And maybe when you're my age, and I'm twice the age I am now, or who knows how old, you'll think about that first time here. You'll think about the words that I'm saying now. And maybe when you look out at that lake, through those trees, through the fog, you'll remember me. Remember the things I've said, the feelings I've felt, the mistakes I've made, the good I've done, everything. My dreams are restless for a reason. Well, I think it's time I actually go in and visit this place called Silent Hill.